Good morning, everybody. We just need to make sure we're not sleeping when Benjamin comes over and start to present. Just a small introduction. Benjamin Kaiser is, for me, it's an honor, first of all, because I'm a big rugby fan, so being presenting one of the big players for the French team, one of the best in the world, 47 caps, 16 years as a professional player, play for some of the best teams in Europe, Leicester, Clermont, Castres, and completed an MBA and helping companies bringing the elite performance backgrounds and best practices into businesses. That's why Benjamin is probably here today. And then one of the things that I've been reading, not for rugby, who knows, maybe later. No, one of the things I think was important when I read through some of the material was about the team. And I think we are a team here, a collective. And more than the collective, what's important is the purpose, something bigger than us. So I think it's important. I'm going to ask you a big round of applause for Benjamin Kaiser. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for the warm welcome. I feel totally overdressed. It's usually the other way around, but look, this is even better because I feel that you're welcoming me into your changing room, and so I feel at ease. I feel at home. Look, thanks a lot. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. We're going to talk a lot about what I've extracted out of my 16-year professional rugby career. And what I want to build, because in the end, humans, unfortunately, will always be the challenge, but they'll always be the solution. So you got to work together, and when it's about elite performance, whether it's building sustainably performing teams or it's getting inspired by sporting mindsets, then I think there's a lot of transposable skills that I would like to develop with you. My 3 themes will be the idea of my pillars of performance or sustainable performance would be embodied leadership, values in motion, and team spirit. Just bear in mind, for about 45 minutes, you're going to listen to me blather. I'm going to come and reach out to you and ask for a little bit of interactions, yes, but it's mainly me giving to you. Now, if you want to give back at the end, find some interesting questions. Dig deep into what I have to offer, because you're going to feed me. I want to learn about your problems just to make my delivery more relevant, because I don't want to be out of context. Okay, so you very kindly summed up my rugby career, absolutely. And look, I've been very lucky enough to do a lot. I've won a lot, I've lost a lot, I learned a ton. But mainly there's one element of my rugby career that you forgot to mention, and probably because you're a very polite person. But you have in front of you the player in the world who holds the world record of lost European finals. Nobody in the history of this sport has lost more Champions Cup finals than I have. 5. Nobody has played as many European finals either, and that's a different story. And obviously, this will be my theme through my steps to resilience, and we'll talk about it in a second. Yes, you have very kindly mentioned that I did an executive MBA at Oxford because I wanted to have a sort of a legitimacy in the world of business. Prior to that, I was brought up as an expat. My father was a senior partner for McKinsey, so we lived in Chicago when I was young, and then we lived in China for 3 years, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Beijing. Hence, my accent is a little bit all over the place. I'm not South African, just so you know. I am 100% French and very proud to be. Married to an English woman. I am weak and have got very bad judgment. During my career, I played for Leicester Tigers, and we've got 2 little girls who are 9 and 6, and I currently live just outside London. This international experience has really got me le goût des autres, a taste for others. I love bringing what makes you different, extracting what is different about somebody else, and bringing it for the common pot. That's why I actually stumbled upon rugby. And rugby is the epitome of exactly that. We need, it's not that we're better people, and we're going to speak about it in a second. In the definition of the rules of rugby, we need difference. Different body shapes, different psychology characteristics, and then extracting the better of international cultures. I've always been an investor and entrepreneur because I adore entrepreneurship. I believe in a very naive sentence that entrepreneurs are the athletes of the real world. Those characteristics are absolutely identical. Resilience obviously being a main trait of character, but also with the good and the bad. In elite athletes or elite entrepreneurs, the difference between self-confidence and ego can be very, very small. So it can be an issue. The incapacity of having sort of work-life balance because you're so committed into what you're doing that it's complicated to see where to start and where to stop. However, giving absolutely everything in what you've got in the ticker, giving 150% of what you got in your heart, that's something that's appealed to me. I was having nightmares at the end of my career about being surrounded by people who didn't care. That was really going to be my challenge of after rugby. And so being surrounded by entrepreneurs, you're definitely surrounded by people who care, and who care a hell of a lot. And when you add that to the bigger purpose, to the idea that my entrepreneurship is going to contribute positively to the world, then we're pushing that's the extra element that I wanted to bring. And so this is why I've created Teampact Ventures, which is a venture capital impact fund where we take the best out of elite sports and bring it to positive energy, positive innovation, climate tech and health tech, to boost the human performance from within. That's really what we're doing. We're building a bridge from elite athletes who want to invest their money and their time into positive innovation. Reforestation, circular economy, a lot of circular economy for us, mental health, and I'll be super happy to talk to you a little bit more about it once we can chat. So this idea of your R, you're being changing the world for the better is something that I'm totally aligned with. So look, the three themes that we're going to talk about: embodied leadership, values in motion, team spirit. Embodied leadership, I would just like to take to you first for a little anecdote. I'm going to talk to you about the first time that I ever played for a professional rugby side. So this was, for me, in my personal career, this was in August 2004. I think it's very easy to... So, sorry, I forgot to say, you don't need to know anything about rugby to understand what I'm talking about today. By the way, your rugby knowledge has to be extremely average. But I think it's easy to understand for any sportsman at anything in the world, you want to play for the first team, okay? Whether it's 10th division or 1st division, whether it's completely amateur or professional, you just want to do your absolute best. You want to play for the first 15, whether it's in your school, in a professional club, whatever. It so happens that for me personally, even though I discovered rugby in Hong Kong, my first club was Stade Français, the Paris club. And so I started there when I was 14, went all through the academy. I was captain of the under 16, 17, 18, and I'm the only member of the academy of that promotion to made it to the professionals. So you can understand it's my club of heart. It's the city where I was born. It's where my parents live. It's where my best friends are. It's where my grandparents live. I'm the one representing the club in the academy. So in September 2004, when Fabien Galtier, who's the current French team coach, taps on my shoulder and tells me, Benjamin, this Saturday you're starting, the emotional and the emotional aspect of that decision was ginormous for me. And I was lucky enough to be surrounded at that time at Stade Français by some rugby legends, some absolute legends of the sport, experienced, well-balanced, charismatic, world leaders, if you want to put it this way, including Augustin Pichot, who's there, who was the scrum half and captain of the Argentinian Pumas, and he so happened to be the scrum half and captain of Stade Français. Scrum half is like the leader of the play, the guy who dictates the tempo of the game, a very influential position. And all those guys, including Augustin, during the week come and see me. Ben, how you feeling? How you doing? And look, I was 18. I was stupid as can be, but I was strong and very, very confident. I was like, boys, I'm flying. Don't worry about me. This is all good. You know this image of somebody putting their hands on your shoulder and you just, shrugging it off. I did that all week. That was on the Tuesday. By the Wednesday, I was starting to shake a little bit more. On the Thursday, I was seriously, reconsidering my choices. On the Friday, pardon my French, I was literally shitting myself. And we go to the hotel before the game, which is a Saturday afternoon. And in rugby, you always share your bed with, or your room with other teammates. That's really good teammates. And I get to the hotel reception. I see my key is next to Augustin Pichot, so I'm gonna bunk. I'm gonna share my room with Augustin Pichot. And I think, look, geez, it's really nice. He's 35, I'm 18. He's the captain, I'm the newbie. It's really nice of him. I'm being very naive there. And because normally I would always share with the second youngest. And if you know anything about team sport, if you're 18 and you're sharing the room with the 35-year-old captain, you don't pick your bed, you don't even look at the remote control of the TV, and you don't even dream of touching the light switch. Okay, so basically you just sit in your bed and you stay quiet and you don't say anything. So I am left in my thoughts, on my own, in that crappy little shitty bed, because he gave me the bad one, with an absolute incapacity to express anything, to chat to anybody, the incapacity of actually calling my friends, because Augustin is Argentinian, so he doesn't speak, he screams. He was also part of the transitioning towards professionalism of rugby. So he's still an entrepreneur. He's got 3 phones, loads of businesses, and it's still 2 a.m. and he's yelling on the phone to this and that. And so I cannot speak to him. I cannot speak to my friends. I am left with my thoughts in distress. I am really, really almost having a panic attack about this game the following day. And comes the final moment where he puts his bloody phones down and we're actually going to have maybe a sleep and he's going to switch the light off. And he turns around and he just stares at me and he goes, "Ben, are you scared?" I was like, oh, finally, an opening. And I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, it's really nice of you to say because," and I'm starting to blah, but he just stops me. He goes, "You should be scared because you're shit." And he switched the light off. And I am in my bed and I am mortified. But to the point where I actually genuinely thought I was going to text my mom, "Can you just write me a letter? Ben is not feeling great. Don't worry, he can't make it tomorrow." Then I was thinking, oh, maybe I can just, run away. They're not going to notice if there's a player missing the next day. I'll be fine. It's 15 of us. Surely they can miss me. It's not the issue. I packed my bag during that night. I went, to the loo in the middle of the night, and I was starting to pack my bag, thinking, I'm just going to do a runner here. The next morning, I obviously don't want to cross his eyes, so I'm like wearing a hoodie, pretending that I'm still sleeping. And he goes downstairs. I'm not going to stay in the room the whole day, so I end up going downstairs. And imagine, a big hotel breakfast area, 35 lads. The first thing that happens is everyone goes, "Ben, did you have a good night's sleep?" And they all start laughing, because the first thing Augustin did was to tell the story to everyone, obviously. And I go down, and I'm mortified, and he stops everybody. He's like, "Look, let's get everybody in a circle." And he puts me in the middle of the circle. He gives me a big bear hug, and he's like, "Look, today you're going to play well, and we're going to win, because you're a good player, we're going to help you. But let me tell you right now, it's the last time in your life that you shy away from your emotions. It's the last time in your life that you shrug your shoulder when somebody wants to try to help. It's the last time in your life that you listen to your ego and you don't, grab a lending hand. Fear, anxiety, stress is your body telling you this matters. This is important. It's your body trying to add some additional tension to you, which can be totally transformed into energy, 100%. The only times where it cannot be transformed into energy is when you lie, is when you shrug it off, is when you just put it under the carpet and you pretend that it's not there. Stress, adrenaline, fear is just your body telling you this is an extra amount of kicker that you need. When you're a little squirrel and there's a fox coming around, you want to be scared, because you're going to run faster. To the point where you can almost say it's the day that I cross the white line of a rugby pitch without being a little bit afraid, that's when not only my performance is going to be terrible, but I'm probably going to get hurt. The boxer who goes into the ring knowing the adversity that's going to be literally in front of him, relaxed and not even fearing anything, is a fool, is an absolute fool. You saw in my video the moment of the haka. So the haka is the traditional the All Blacks Maori dance that they do after the anthems. It's an invitation to war. And I always get asked the question, how does it feel to be in front of the haka? It feels bloody fantastic. But it feels fantastic if prior to that you have expressed your vulnerability. You have admitted that you are afraid. Not afraid of getting hurt, they're going to hurt me. No, afraid of looking like a fool. They're the double world champions. If you don't give 200% of what you've got in your tummy in there, they're going to wipe the floor with you in front of 85,000 French people with French flags, and you're going to put a little bit of disappointment on the jersey. And trust me, you never really want to be the one who's going to disappoint the jersey. And so I've seen guys absolutely freeze to death in front of the haka. Well, all the macho bravos who during the week, don't worry, let them do their little dance, we're going to smash them up afterwards. But I've also seen guys take as much energy when they stamp their feet and they bang their chest, because you can feel that tension and you know what's going to happen. It's not like we discover the rules of rugby once we get there. We know there's going to be physical confrontation, right? But my point here is vulnerability is a strength. All the major leaders that I was surrounded with that were the most performant on the pitch were all those who were extremely comfortable with their vulnerability. It takes a big man to admit that he's scared. It takes a big man or woman to admit they're not really sure, they don't know everything, they're not totally certain. If you shift this to the idea of business, Reid Hoffman, who's the founder of LinkedIn, was saying if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you launch too late. There's this idea of saying it's not going to be perfect, but you got to move on. You got to go. What's dangerous with leadership is if you pretend that it's perfect and that you've got everything sorted, well then if anything bad happens, you lost all legitimacy and all credibility within your team, and it's unfixable. The other way around, I'm not going to talk about politics with Colin Powell, but he talked about a very interesting rule of decision-making under stress of the 40-70 rule. And I have friends at Oxford that told me that even the Navy SEALs use exactly that same rule. I think it's fair to say the Navy SEAls are no spring chicken. They're pretty well drilled, pretty well organized, pretty thoroughly trained guys. And even they use this rule of 40-70 of decision-making under stress. And that rule says, if you take a decision with less than 40% of the available information, you're going blind, you're a fool, you're a kamikaze. But if you take a decision with more than 70%, it's a missed opportunity. Even they say it. Even these guys who have to be the most drilled in the world because they're putting in the most heated situations in the world. But by saying that, you're saying, I'm not totally certain. And you have to admit it. You have to be comfortable with that doubt. You have to own that doubt and that anxiety and that stress that comes with it. Okay? So my point is, vulnerability is a strength. On a side note, vulnerability or the strength of vulnerability as leaders especially will create psychological safety. After this session, I'll send you a link of this study that was done by Google. There are like 1,100 teams, psychological safety, number one ingredient in performance. Number one, over talent, 100%. It's not about having a vote, it's about having a voice. And to create this psychological safety, you need to lead by example in that sense. So I'm not even talking about just well-being here. I'm purely talking about performance. This vulnerability will feed to psychological safety, which will be the basic ingredient of resilience. To feed off your mistakes and to understand adversity, you got to admit it and you've got to own up to it. So, like I said to you, I lost 5 here for being finals. Okay, fair enough. We're going to move on from this finally. But I also want to try to extract the 3 steps of resilience, which worked for me, and I hope they inspire you. So number one, I needed to understand a bit more about what we were talking about. What stays abstract for me is complicated to understand. And I just dug deep into the wording of it. And actually I discovered that the term resilience is used a lot in material science. The ability of a metal to absorb energy under elastic deformation, but, which is the bit that I'm interested about, recover this energy at removal of load. There's almost in science that we're expressing the power that is expressed by a metal when they regather this unbreakable state. So I know it's about seeing the glass half full or half empty, but I'd rather see how much energy I deploy to re-become indestructible rather than how much I'm able to receive the hits. Okay, it's purely in my mind. And secondly, I was introduced to Wolff's Law. Your muscles are attached to your tendons to your bones. Okay, I didn't teach you anything. But the more stress, the more strain, the more activity, physical activity that you put on your body, on your muscles, the higher your bone density gets. That's just medical fact. So you know all those stories about, oh, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's going to toughen you up. Adversity will make you tougher. But there's a literal medical explanation behind it. The more strain you put on your body, the more activity you put on your muscles, the harder your skeleton is to break. That felt good to me. I was happy to see it. It wasn't just in my mind. It wasn't just something that was untangible. Secondly, what was really important to me is that I need to set the boundaries. And that's why I try to pick up on your value, which is about agility and adapting to quick situations with clear thinking. Clear thinking comes by boundaries that will be set when everything goes fine. Leadership gets tested, pardon my French, when the shit hits the fan. Friendship gets tested when the shit hits the fan. It's easy to be a great leader when everything's good. It's easy to be resilient when you never face failure, right? So you will only be tested then. But if you have not set those boundaries when everything's fine, when the sea is not rough, then when the storm will be there, it will be too late. You won't have time to put it. You will not be thinking clearly, and you will not have this habit of doing things. So what I did, for instance, and I'll send you the link of it, Dan Carter, who used to be the famous fly half of the New Zealand All Blacks, like the playmaker, the number 10, he told me about this 24 personal grieving period. After every single game that he played, he was allowed to reflect on it for 24 hours. Whether it was a great win, you can be super satisfied with yourself for 24 hours. Whether it's a major loss, you can be really down on yourself for 24 hours. Don't forget that in team sports, and especially for you guys, you can be a super performer and your team loses, or the team can win, but your performance can be pretty average. So there's always time for reflection. What he did with those boundaries is that he would be absolutely super disciplined at never going above 24 hours. It's not 24 hours and 1 minute. It's 24 hours and that's it. So you can be super happy for yourself, but then you got to be in the growth mindset and keep on going. You could be super down, but then life moves on. You can't make it suffered for the rest of the team. Neither can you on the side note, which was something very personal, on your family life. My wife knew that for 24 hours after a big loss, just don't speak to me, okay? After 24 hours and 1 minute, I zip it and I move on and you keep on going with the kids and stuff, and I have zero excuses. So you create those habits, you create this pattern, so that when you lose your 5th bloody European final, you're ready. Okay? Secondly, we need to redefine what a mistake, what an error is. A final is a bit like an end-of-the-year result for you. You made it, you didn't. There's 1,000 different reasons in there. It's very complicated to analyze such a defeat. Well, a final is the same thing. Do you think a final is just a score? No. It can be, 6 months of strategy. What did you do in preseason the year before? Why did you recruit this guy 3 years prior to that? There's loads of different reasons in it. Did you get used to the law changes that were going to come? There's loads of things that can influence the outcome even of a European final. And so what we did is that we tried to redefine mistakes based on what we can have a direct impact on. I'm not a believer that COVID killed a lot of companies that would be really healthy before that. If you dig deep, there's always companies that were losing money for 5 years along, and yes, COVID kicked them down the drain and finished them, but there's always other reasons there. And so the reality is that we want to focus not on the weather, I can't predict it, not on the ref, that's him, not on the opposition, because, if they're flying one day, then fair enough. I can concentrate on my effort, 100% individually. And so what we did is that we redefined mistakes and that there was technical errors and effort errors, lack of effort or technical errors. The technical errors, I'm not the coach. I don't make the training plan. Neither do I totally make the strategy. I can influence it a little bit, but I don't make it. So technical mistakes are not on me. Effort mistakes are 100% on me. I'm not waiting on anybody to grab my hand and to feed me motivation. I'm not waiting for my coach to motivate me. I'm not waiting for my captain to motivate me. I make the deal of saying I want to be world champion at what I do. That's the bond that the binding moral contract that you have with your team, and that's what you commit to. But to redefine this, you need to work on it, and you need to do it when everything goes well. And then thirdly, just that's more of a long-term type of vision thing, is the number one rule for CEOs of strategic resilience. If an event can shut down your operation, destroy your model, redefine your competitive advantage, it's not an operational risk. It's a strategic problem and it requires planning. Imagine the guy who wants to win Wimbledon or Roland Garros, the tennis player, and he rocks up and he's just praying that he's not on the side of Nadal and Federer, so he can meet them later. You're just dreaming. If you're not facing adversity, if you don't get beaten by competition, you're probably not in the right league. If you're the smartest man in the room, you're in the wrong room. That was our idea. So we actually provisioned failure. We provisioned being outplayed, just because that's the nature of the beast. So we would actually get more worried if you were ahead of competition. Maybe we're just in the wrong league. We must be doing something wrong. So that's considering resilience as part of the strategy. Provision for it, it's going to come. I did tell you I lost 5 European finals, but I forgot to tell you I won my 6th one. And so I wasn't captain of the team, but they very kindly asked me to go and lift this trophy. On a very personal note, there was a major mindset shift. I thought that because I lost 5 finals, I deserved to win one more than others. I thought that because I lost 5 finals, I deserved to be a little bit more sad than others. Okay? I was also the co-captain of the team who was meant to be the one leading by the front with this whole team spirit, team first attitude, sacrifice yourself for others. And even in my position, I was never a guy who would really shine at what we did. I was, in the dark arts. In rugby, we say you have the piano players. That wasn't me. You have the piano pushers. That was me. Okay? And that really was the mindset. But my mindset had shifted after that fifth final. It was completely selfish of me to think that I deserved to win it more than others. 5 European finals, okay. 3 of them in the same stadium. That was a bit of a tough one to swallow, in the same changing room. But those 5 finals are between 2005 and 2017. I was a boy who became a man. 3 different clubs, 5 different refs, 4 different opponents. Even within the same, when you play with the same team with 12 years apart, there's probably 4 guys in the team that were still there. So yes, they are named the same, but actually very uncorrelated events. Just so focus on one final after the other. How much have I done? How much of my efforts have I put into this? And so shifting from me to us, hopefully was part of the contributing factors to finally win the 6th one. So we could all learn. So my first point was really this one, and please shoot some questions at the end. Vulnerability is a strength, 100%. It will feed psychological safety, which will be the base of resilience. Now I would like to talk about values in motion, and we can reflect on yours maybe at the end. It will be a good launch for our little Q&A. But one thing that we do really well in rugby, and this is going to be my point, is that words on a billboard, no disrespect, the care slide is beautiful, are great. If you don't link actions or rituals to them, for me, they're useless. You need to embody your values. In a very naive way, you could say if you see an Ecoton employee walking down the street, you should almost recognize him by the way that he's behaving. Of course, I'm pushing the trait. But that's the way that you can try to visualize it. I will send you the link to this book written by the All Blacks called Legacy by James Kerr. And he talks about the process with which he worked with the leadership team of the New Zealand All Blacks to come up with the 15 All Black principles. The All Blacks have had the highest winning ratio in the history of my sport, 93% of winning ratio. They basically demolished everyone. Except in the World Cup, they're considered as chokers for a little while because they kept on falling flat on their faces against the mighty French from time to time. And they're the only team in the world that I know of who actually took a 6-month period only to reflect on who they were as people. They didn't talk about strategy, they didn't talk about technique, they didn't talk about conditioning. That's the excuse of the poor, conditioning in sport. It's like you want to be a better leader, you want to have a more performing company, or I'll just get rid of 50% of the wages. That's easy. I've made some money there. It's the excuse of the poor. And they're the only team who actually had this mindset of saying better people will make better All Blacks. And they decided to come up with a 15 All Blacks principle to say how they were going to behave, who they were going to be as people. And they made it extremely actionable, and I think it's brilliant. I hear a lot about a common value that is going to be everywhere, which I think is a brilliant one. Let's say to be humble, humility. I think that's great. The All Blacks decided to call it sweep the sheds. That's the All Blacks principle number 1. After every game, they left the changing room spotless by sweeping the sheds, cleaning up the changing room, and leaving it spotless. And it's not the youngest of the team, it's not the oldest of the team, it's definitely not the coach or the kit man, it's the Daniel Carter who would also do the Petrolan adverts, it's the Richie McCaw who was the toughest warrior in the world. That was their way of incarnating humility. And they did it first. They got copied by everyone else afterwards, they just didn't have the same symbolic. Also, and I really like it because they're straight to the point, we always say, be a good team player, bring energy to a room, don't soak it out. They just said, principle number 6, no dickheads. They went straight to the point. Just don't be a dickhead. Be a good team player, be a good lad. So read this book. It's actionable values that will be that will last a lifetime, rather than just being words on a billboard that can change from time to time. Vincent Collet in the middle. Just there, he's the French basketball national coach who took all those NBA superstars to the last Olympics in Tokyo and came back with a silver medal, which was brilliant. They lost to the US in the Olympic final, but they beat them in the pool stages. And his problem was to get all those NBA superstars to perform as well as they did in the NBA with the French team. And he said to them, look, I need some leadership by example by my NBA superstar, which is a great idea, you know, with the team. You need to lead by example. Fantastic. What does it mean? How do you action it? How am I going to go about it? He said, well, okay, fine. Every morning they had a meeting at 9 a.m. He said, well, I've got an idea. For you guys, if you want to lead by example, if you're on time, you're late. Those guys were never late, but they would rock up at, I don't know, 8:58 in 45 seconds, right? He only took his couple of leaders for you to embody leading by example. If you're on time, you're late. Those guys arrived then 20 minutes before the video. What happens to everybody else when they see the big NBA superstars rocking up? They came even earlier. They beat the USA in those pool stages, like I said to you, thanks to a defensive system that got put together only by the players 20 minutes before a video session without the coaches. I'm trying to say leading by example is great. Giving it something actionable is much better. And finally, Greg Popovich, who's the wizard behind the San Antonio Spurs, again in basketball, an NBA franchise, who I think they won 6 or 7 NBA titles in 12 or 13 years, something out of this world, just a winning dynasty. And they said that they based it on a dinner culture. They based it on a dinner culture because Greg Popovich said, look, I really want to treat my club and my franchise as my family. Except even in this room, I don't think we all have the same definition of the family. There's extremely different ways of behaving as a family, of considering what a family looks like, feels like, should be like. And he said, well, listen, in my family, we have one rule is that we eat together every Sunday. We're not allowed to talk about jobs. You can talk about traveling, about kids, about education, about whatever you want. But about art, he's a huge French wine lover, so he would discuss about it. But you just can't talk about your jobs. What he did is that he applied this to the San Antonio Spurs, and he created this dinner culture. After every game, all the coaching staff, all the players, all the families were all invited in one restaurant. And he, as long as he hadn't spoken to at least one member of each family, nobody was allowed to leave. They say, honestly, that this behaving of him treating them like he treats his own children is the base of their success. He took what it is to behave as a family, and he applied it with a concrete action. So that was really my point that I wanted to share with you. And this is something that we need to reflect on what you guys do. This is fantastic. But if I could just have at the end exactly how you apply it and how, that would be the ideal scenario. What does it mean to be, for you to embody entrepreneurship in a clear action or a ritual? What does it mean to be responsibly wanting to change the world? What are you doing as people? And there's probably already things that you are doing. You might as well express them and manifest them and display them everywhere. And same for others, and we'll speak about it at the end. There's also an idea of diversity that I want to touch upon you. I am not a one who will consider diversity as marketing ticking boxes for HR. Okay? I don't believe that it's man, women, black, white, whatever it is. I believe in performance, because I know that diversity brings performance. And that's what I really believe in. And rugby is a fantastic example for it. Look, you don't need to know anything about rugby, but there's this idea of a scrum, where it's 900 kgs of obviously purely muscle and bones that just push against one another, but also guys that run like the wind who are 100-meter sprinters. You simply cannot be 6'6" and jump in the line out and scrummage. Neither can you be 6'6" and run the 100 meters in 11 seconds. There's body shapes and different body shapes that we need for the rules of rugby, okay? Which makes us a very team-orientated sport, because there is an absolute necessity of others. I was never the best player in my team, but without me, they would never be the best. Okay, that's the idea. So you can even see it in this picture. You need the really, really tall, you need the really, really small. But then if you put it in terms of characteristics psychologically, you need the fearless. You need the one who runs really, really fast because he's really, really scared. And then you need one who's really, really bright, and you want who doesn't think that much, but just a doer, is a follower. You need the revolutionary, the very calm and collected. You need the madman from time to time. We do need a madman in there, who will take on anybody at any time. But you also need the guy who will be good with the ref. You just need a bit of everything. That's the rules of rugby. And then you build it to a different level, which is international rugby or club international rugby. In professional top 14 teams, so that's the Premiership in France, there are 14 different nationalities per club on average. And we're talking France with Japan, Georgia with Argentina, Fiji with England, Australia and Italy, whatever. Extremely different cultures. It's not like just the Europeans and all that. And the teams who perform the best at the moment are all those who created a story of us. It's not a story of me, a story of you, it's a story of us. Extract the best out of all those teams and bring it to the common pot. And the team at the moment who's doing really well, and it really still hurts to say it because they beat us in the quarterfinal of the last World Cup, are the South African Springboks, which is the picture that's behind me. They're the double world champion at the moment. They won it in Japan, and they just won it a couple of weeks ago in France. Obviously, you know the governmental situation and the catastrophic situation of apartheid that got abolished in 1994, 1995. That absolutely split the population of South Africa. But if you consider, when you look at this team, that it's like, you know, the black and the whites that need to play together, you are 30 years behind. There are 9 different dialects in there, and there are 29% of South Africans who still live in townships. That's just the pure statistics. These guys have become the world champions at having a radar for what makes people different and using it as power. When they went to Japan in 2019, they're the first team in the world. After each training and after every game, they would line up on the white line of the touch line, and they would all salute the stands. Because they knew, and they were only team that actually took the time to do their homework, that in Japan, politeness and respect are the #1 rules. You can't go anywhere else other than that. All the teams after that copied them because they thought it was really cool. They're the only team, the Springboks, who had 35,000 people to come and watch them train. Japanese fans. I'm not saying that's the only reason why they won the World Cup. There was a lot more to it. But still, they are the world champions of analyzing what makes them different and what makes other people different. And that's the power of diversity for me. I'm not going to show the video that's just after because it's a bit, sometimes it has some tough reactions because it's very poignant, very emotional, very touching. But the story is about this guy in the middle, Mokosele Mapimpi, who's here, who's the winger of the Springboks. Who ended up scoring in the World Cup final, and he was one of the revelations of the 2019 World Cup. And Rassie Erasmus, in this documentary, I'll send you the link afterwards, explained that he created, he wanted to do something about the jerseys. He wanted to do something about, in the back of their jerseys, they have their numbers, and he created a mosaic of loads of little different pictures of family members inside the numbers that they had on their backs. So the guys rocked up in the changing room, and behind their numbers had, a mosaic of all their support, which was a surprise for everyone. Obviously, a very touching idea with the ideology that, your family is behind you. You know what I mean? And Mokosele Mapimpi, unfortunately, got to the meeting room and only put down a picture of himself. And all the boys started laughing. What are you doing? You love yourself and stuff. No, I've got nobody else. And they didn't realize the familial atrocities that happened to this poor guy who comes from the 29% of people who still live in townships. He lost his parents when he was very young. His brother had just got killed, and his stepsister he didn't know about. So when you're professional rugby players who are playing the World Cup, who are earning hundreds of thousands a year, and you get brought back to the reality of what is happening to a third of the population of your own country, it was a bit of it was a very emotional moment for that team. So they shifted from playing for South Africa in general to playing for the people who needed the most. And he was the symbol of that. So I'll send you the link of the video. It's well worth a view. But my point is that diversity is about bringing what makes you different for the power of the team. Diversity is performance. Have a human radar out to pick out exactly above, far beyond just the professional status, what makes somebody different. Pick out what makes yourself different and bring it to the common pot. It is power. And this we'll skip. Okay, and then in terms of diversity of, I just wanted to touch upon this diversity of management. I always get asked the question, who is the best coach you ever had? Well, obviously he doesn't exist because I'm a very picky person, but he would be sort of an accumulation of those 4 guys with an idea of going from warmth to edge. I believe that the highest performing teams are those who master to have extremely high edge with extremely high warmth exactly at the same time. If you're on the trading floor, they're extremely edgy guys who are particularly not warm, and it actually works. It works for them, but it works in a short amount of time. You can be in fantastic NGOs or even certain companies who have fantastic warmth, and it's great. Without edge, you're never really going to go anywhere. I want to love people extremely hard, respect them, push them, have empathy, listen, create a brotherhood, create bonding moments between everybody. but bloody hell, I want to win. And I want to kill everybody who doesn't want to be in my team and who wants to even try to look at the trophy instead of me. And that's the two elements of performance that you need to put, and that's the tricky one of management, is that you put them at the same time. And if you grow like this, you're going to lose people along the way. If you grow like this, you're just going to multiply your example. And so this idea was, I wanted to feed it to your value of entrepreneurship, but running your business like an entrepreneur. And I think an entrepreneur is an athlete, and to do that, you need to basically pick out from those 4 different dimensions, from warmth to edge, of the coaches that I really wanted to touch upon. Franck Azema, who's all the way on the left, who was my coach in Clermont, he's the coach with the strongest humanity I ever had. He was this father figure with empathy, with time, consideration. Just you know, when somebody that shines of happiness and kindness, you just want to connect. You want to cuddle him. You know, you want to be next to him. You want to hang out with him, and you want to do that. Entrepreneurs need to have this warmth about them to bring people with them. I mean, nobody wants to hang out with assholes. You know, you want to be connected with good people, because when you're going to ask for those extra elements of loyalty, of kindness, of resilience, heart is good, okay, and heart is positive. However, Franck, when it was about taking a really, really tough decision and a glimpse of a moment that just needed to be taken, it would take him a little bit of time. If I go totally on the other side, and I go to the edgy side, this is Fabien Galtier, who's currently the French team coach. He's a strategic genius. He is a genius. To be an entrepreneur, you got to be a genius. You got to be thinking ahead. You got to scroll to data to just pick out something that nobody else has seen. You got to find your competitive advantage by hours of work, by dedication, by attention to detail, and by a little bit of genius, about a bit of this forward-thinking genius side of things. Of course you do. Fabien Galtier, though, on certain aspects of his life, can be sort of a sociopath. He's not the warmest. He's not the kindest. He is complicated. However, when it's about taking a tough decision for the better of the team, he will take in a blink of a second. He'll probably take the right decision, to be fair to him, because he can be a little bit heartless from time to time. But his genius is also that he adapted data in rugby in a way that nobody else has ever done so far. I always see, KPIs linked to the OKRs and stuff. That's great. It's fantastic. What we did in our data, for instance, is that we adapted data that we measure to the way that we wanted to play, yes, but also to our values. And if one of the values is going to be about team first, which is the one that we used to have in my team, team first is about getting back into the line, right? You just got to be there for the team. And so he measured, that's Fabien, he measured the time that the boys were taking to get off the floor after a tackle. If you've ever played rugby, when you're at 200 pulsations of your heart per minute, and then you fall to the ground, and it's really tough tackle, there's always a moment where you're playing with your mind, can I just have 2 seconds to breathe? And you just want to take one. Those 2 seconds, if you combine them to 80 minutes of play, it's just a moment where a teammate had to run 1 meter more to chase somebody in defense. He had to make one more tackle just to save your ass. He had to do this one thing. And if you pile this on, it might be the reason why you concede a try at the last minute and you lose the game. So his idea was to say, you want to show how much you want to put team first? Make sure that you get up back into play as fast as you can. And he used to measure that. So he wouldn't measure the amount of tries that you would pass, the amount of tackles that you would make, the quality of your spinning. No. How much are you getting how quick are you getting off the floor to be back for the team? Most of the time, what's funny is that just getting off the floor doesn't mean that you tackle again. It just means that there's one more body back into the line, and you show that you're there for everyone. John O'Gibbs, in the middle here, was the forwards coach with Franck Azema when I was in Clermont. And I want to talk, it's not really attention to detail. I should have changed that. It's more side angle thinking. And I think entrepreneurs sometimes are extremely tunnel vision, super focused, really well driven into what they do, which is great, which is what I tell all my entrepreneurs that are portfolio, I push them for that. Yes, it is extremely useful from time to time to press pause and either look at something from the side or get somebody to do that for you. And Jono was neither a strategic genius, neither was he very particularly empathetic and had a long of humanity, but he always just challenged the way that things done, and sometimes there's nothing to change, but he would always look at things from a side angle. And I've got an example for you. One day he got us all in a meeting room and he had 12 little clips of kickoffs. So in rugby, whenever points are scored, both teams get back into their sides, and normally the number 10 of the opposition team will bounce the ball and kick it back into play from the halfway line, okay? If you're going to receive the ball, if you're on the receiving end, you would love to know where the ball is going to go. And usually you put it all the way to one touch because you want to put somebody to the left. You put it all the way to the right because you want to put it on the other side, or you put it in the middle. So there's 3 different options, let's say. And John got us into the team room. And he said, oh, by the way, look at those clips and tell me what you think about it. And all we could see were 10 clips, one after the other, of our number 10, our fly half, kicking a kickoff, getting to the middle of the center field, bouncing on the floor, kicking, but he would pause and cut the video as soon as the ball had just left his foot. It was just there. So we had no clue where the ball was going to go because it would just stop there. And at the end, we looked at all those kickoffs, and he said, right, so where's the ball going to go? Well, we don't know, Jono. You stopped it. It was just there. All right, let's watch it again. Went again. Number 10 comes. He bounces it. He says a few things, whatever. He's about to kick, and he stops it when the ball's there. So where's the ball going to go? At some point, we look at John and like, look, you just tell us where you're going here because we have no clue. He's like, well, he took our number 10, he brought it here in the middle of everyone. So, all right, let's talk about your process. So tell me what you've been doing since age 6 at every single game that you've ever played of rugby. Well, I don't know. I get to the middle, I bounce it. Okay, what else do you do? Well, I tell my teammates where the ball is going to go. Okay, but unless we have a microphone, we can't really tell that. And then what else do you do? I push the ref. What do you mean you push the ref? Well, I put him on the other side because he's going to be in my way. So what do you mean by that? Well, if I'm going to kick right and the ref is on my right, I put him on my left and I kick right. So basically, all you need to do to know where the ball is going to go is where the ref is going to be, and the ball is going to go on the other side. I'm 30 years old, 40 caps for France, and I'm thinking, we never thought about that. And it's been bluntly in front of us for years and years, and it's a huge strategic advantage to know where the ball is going to go every time. We just never really thought about it. So entrepreneurs, yes, be tunnel vision, super focused, data-driven. You got to be forward-thinking. You got to have heart to have people to come inside, to come with you. You got to look at things from a side angle. Yes, absolutely, from time to time, because you can just, when you think you have, in English they said you don't leave any stones unturned. Well, you might just have the one that you forgot about, and it could be the game-changer one. And finally, I just want to finish with Vern Cotter. You could tell by his face that he's a really kind and jolly and, extremely delightful person. I'm joking. He was a dictator. He was tough as can be, but he needed to be tough. He transformed a club of Clermont who went to 3 consecutive top 14 finals and lost all 3 of them consecutively. Same captain, same coach. Got them to the final, lost it once. The year after, got them to the final, lost again. And all along the way, he was a brutal coach. He was extremely severe on nutrition, discipline, strategy, fitness. Every time you lost a game, you would get a text, 6 a.m. training, and it was going to be a bollocking. You would be rubbing up and down. You would be doing boxing. You'd do some army training. It was just a punishment. Punishments work well, huh? For a short amount of time. Then you just get used to them, and at the end, the boy's like, look, let's just take this bad pill. Let's just get the whip for a day or 2. Then he's going to calm down, and we're just going to move on. Just to tell you about nutrition, one day I saw him. He was really, super strict on it. And we stopped after a game at a petrol station with the team bus, and a guy of the team bought himself an ice cream. And Vern saw it, and everybody saw that he saw it, so he was gonna get killed. And Vern didn't say anything, and he just followed him, and the boy was outside, on the phone, and he starts opening his ice cream. He puts the paper wrapping in the bin. He takes a few steps, and he's about to have the first mouthful, and then there's a hand on the shoulder goes, if you take one mouthful of this, you're never touching another jersey again this season. That was the type of coach that he was, okay? He was brutal. And so, but Vern, however brutal he was, however tough he was, however a dictator he was, on the 4th year when we lost again a Premiership top 14 final, and then we had a big European loss, and all the boys got the 6 a.m. training text, and all the boys were ready to get their punishment, trained up, 6 a.m. in the change room. He opened the side door. There was 1,000 beers, music. He said, now, I want all of them to be drunk, and I want all of us to have a good time. And it was his way of saying, look, the whip is going to work for a while, but now it's up to you guys to do it. So the best managers and the best entrepreneurs will pivot whenever need be. I am a huge believer in focusing on your strengths, okay? But sometimes, for the benefit of others, you just have to shift to what doesn't work for you. It takes much more time and energy to go from from bad to average than to go from good to world class. Absolutely focus on your strengths. If I'm a good, I hope, public speaker, but I'm not particularly good at, keeping track of particular details on certain things. If I'm going to work my ass off of being the best public speaker in the world, I'm going to have to be dedicated. I'm going to have to be thorough. I'm going to take some speaking coaches. I'm going to, learn the different languages so I can do it better. I'm going to analyze more of my stuff. Well, basically, I'm going to have an attention to detail and be careful. So focus on your strengths, but just absolutely never be happy with good. Thrive for excellence, even in what you're already very good at, and everything else will get better. So for entrepreneurs, focus on your strengths. You got to be a genius. You got to be forward-thinking. You got to have humanity. You got to pivot from when you need to, and you got to look at things from a different angle. Okay, last pillar. Hopefully nobody's sleeping, and you're gonna go do sports in a moment anyway. We're going to talk about team spirit, and I just want to touch upon trust, and then I'll have a video for you guys to put that all in motion. But first, when I want to talk about team spirit, I always get asked, what is team spirit? Well, team spirit for me is what will unite you all to a common mission, to a common goal. And I want to take you back to this idea of cooperation, which is really the team spirit about it all. And we're going to talk about trust in a second. But I want to take you about this anecdote of the pink jerseys. So like I said to you, I played for Stade Français. Stade Français, the president of Stade Français at the time, Stade Français in 1995 was in 5th division of the French club setup. An amazing president called Max Guazzini, who was the impresario of Dalida and then was president of Énergie, so nothing to do with rugby. Énergie, the radio, nothing to do with rugby. Took the presidency of Stade Français and decided to make everything different. And he knew, because he was a marketing genius, that he had just to create things extraordinary everywhere. He recruited some extraordinary players. He got cheerleaders to come to the stadiums. He got a little electric car to bring the tea. He got a naked calendar for the boys called Le Calendrier du Dieu du Stade. He got everybody laughing. Even in like 4th, 5th division, he got the boys to suit up and to wear blazers, where they would get, chuck tomatoes at when you would go down southwest. Everybody hated us until we started winning. And all of a sudden, it was different. He went from 5th division all the way to the top one, and he won for the first year in the top division, the top 14, the Brennus. And his genius coup, he got the boys to wear pink jerseys. Rugby, and I love rugby, and I love my sport, but sometimes we can be a little bit narrow-minded, right? We're a little bit stuck in our ways. We're not particularly keen on doing things differently. Until we start winning. Like I said to you, the boys were laughing about the calendar, and when we became French champions, they were lining up to do it. The boys were laughing about the cheerleaders, and at the end, when we had a chopper bring down by the GIGN to give the ball of the game to a Moulin Rouge dancer, who would give it back to the fly half, they thought, this is the Super Bowl, this is amazing, and everybody copied us since. We played 5 top 14 games in the Stade de France in front of 5,000 people, when others would play in front of 5,000 or 6,000 people down in southwest France. So even in terms of economical power, it was huge. But those pink jerseys also, they were bought in Japan, when rugby was a very insulated sport, not only in Europe, but mainly in France and England. Japan was buying our jerseys. They probably didn't even know that we were rugby players, but they were still buying it. So in terms of marketing, he was a genius. And so rugby can be stuck in his ways until it's proven differently. And unfortunately, I don't know if any of you are from, Catalan region, from Perpignan. If there's a region who is extremely stuck in their ways and extremely narrow-minded, it's the Catalan people. And they hate the Parisians. And the first ever time that we wore those pink jerseys was for a Stade Français Perpignan game in Perpignan. So not only did they don't like Parisians, but they knew we were going to wear the pink jerseys, so they were hostile. They were extremely, extremely up for the game. And we go down to Perpignan, and Max goes into the change rooms, and we walk in. And on the right, we've got our traditional blue colors that are waiting for us, and on the left are the pink colors. And the only thing he said is, you choose. And then he left the change room. And it took 10 seconds for the entire team to pick up those pink ones, not even taking a glance at the blue ones. I was the only player who, like I said to you, went through the Academy of Paris, who was born in Paris, who actually understood what, I don't know, maybe I could have made a link between c'est so Paris, c'est magnifique, it's the fashion attitude of Paris, and this is our legacy. Not at all. All those guys like Augustin Pichot and all of them, they knew that their team spirit, the foundation of our team spirit, was to be different. And if you're gonna buy into a team spirit, you're gonna buy into it all in. So our message to Perpignan was say, by the way, Perpignan, not only are we going to stuff you up, but we're going to do it whilst wearing pink jerseys. That was the message. And they really bought into it. So the idea that what I'm telling you, team spirit, is something that will unite everybody together. It's not about me. It's not the story of me, story of you. It's the story of us. Something that will unite you all to the mission. But in team spirit, you gotta have trust. And I'll send you the link to this book. I think it's brilliant. Imagine if you're the one climbing up that mountain, and I'm the one holding you up, and you can ask me a couple of questions about our trust, our trusting relationship. Maybe you would ask me about my credibility, my competence. Do you know what you're doing? And are you strong enough to do it? Probably you would ask me that. But I promise you would ask me about your warmth. What do you think about me? Do you like me? Do you want to be doing this with me? It definitely involves trust. If you put this into the idea of rugby, this was my position. I was the hooker. In a scrum, again, you don't need to be very technical about it, but I'm the only one holding down everybody who is already leading forward with the handbrake, which is my right foot. When I release it, we hit. And it's pretty easy to understand. If you're trying to push something with your weight on your heels, you're not going to go anywhere. If you're trying to push something with the weight on your toes, you've got all your power. So my role is to get everybody on their toes and to release them at the right way. So it's easy for you to understand that me having the perfect timing of impact makes a massive difference into the outcome of the scrum. And as you can see there, I'm doing all that whilst looking at 900 kgs of bone and muscle with both my arms behind those two props head first. So it's pretty easy to understand that I need to trust those guys, right? Because I don't have anything to hold on to, I'm going head first. And so how did you think we did that together? Well, I needed to know the equation of trust, credibility and warmth. Do they know what they're doing? Are they strong enough? Have they studied it? Technically, do they know what they're doing? And have they got the physical capacity to do it? But 100%, I really need to know, do they want to do it with me? Do they like me? Do they want to be scrummaging with me? What do they think about me? And trust me, sport is extremely feedback-driven environment. We love feedback, brutal feedback, quick feedback, long feedback, mutual feedback, whatever you want. We love to be assessed, which is probably the only thing that differentiates us. We get assessed on a Tuesday. If you're good in your performance, we get assessed on a Thursday. If you make the team sheet, you get assessed on a Saturday. If with that team you've won or you've lost. So we are addicted to performance measurement and also to feedback. So we used to, be extremely brutal when feedback was bad. You're good, you're bad, you're shit, you're great. We just didn't hang about. But we also took a lot of time to say everything that we loved about one another. And it's not to create a world of fairy tale where everybody's happy and we don't deal with anything tough. It really was to influence our trust in one another. So yes, it's called socializing when you put a bottle of wine in the middle of a table and you open up conversations. It does help. I'm not pushing for alcohol consumption, but it is quite handy from time to time. But when this wasn't enough, we would organize sessions, and I'll walk you through this exercise that we did once, which was brilliant. Imagine a sort of a speed dating style. You're sitting in front of each other, almost touching knees with uncomfortable closeness. And for 30 seconds, I have to say the person who's in front of me everything that I like about them. The only rules that the person receiving is not allowed to even make a sound. Just keep your mouth shut, not a thank you, and oh, that's really nice, oh, that reminds me of nothing. Then there's a bell after 30 seconds. We flip around. Not a thank you for what you said, nothing. Go back at it. And after the 2 times 30 seconds, when it's going to be super, super awkward because you're touching each other's knees and you just said what you loved about each other and you never really had the time to say it, you shift to somebody else. And you just do it speed dating style and you go on again. Do this with a team of 10. It takes you 10 minutes. The results are mind-blowing. It takes a lot of courage and it's not easy to say everything that you love about somebody. It's even harder to receive it. And we just simply never do it enough. It's not about creating a fairy tale world where everybody's happy. It's purely to enhance your trust, and trust will be performance. And all I want you is to win. And now, in trust, there's an idea that I'm going to show you this video in a second. But in trust, there's an idea that it needs to be intuitive, it needs to be full, and it's hard to measure. So the next video that I'm going to show you is a try of the French rugby team. And I'm going to give you the context. It's a beautiful try. France wins. It's all good. 1994, France are in New Zealand for the third and final test against the New Zealand All Blacks of their summer tour in 1994. There's 5 minutes left in the game. France are behind by 4 points. And in rugby, you can score a try and score 5 points, or you can score in penalty and score 3 points. So basically, they need to run the ball, cross the line, score a try to do it. They have no other option. Secondly, what you need to know is that in rugby, when you kick the ball long, what you do with the ball once you receive it is totally up to you. Normally, 95% of the time, roughly, or 90% of the time, you would kick it back because you're a little bit risk adverse. You don't want to take a risk close to your line. Imagine you lose the ball, then the opposition can just pick it up and then score. Okay? So 90% of the time, you would kick it back, but you don't have to. And that's all the context that you need so far. But we're going to look at this try. We're going to look at it a couple of times, don't worry. And I just want you to try to pick out one particular element of this try, which could help you measure how genuine, how intuitive, how full the trust between the players was. Okay? So you're going to look at a lot of stuff. They're going to catch the ball. They're going to pass the ball around. They're going to end up scoring. Everybody's happy. Have a look at one particular element that I'm going to come and ask you in a second that you think is the perfect illustration of genuine, full trust in motion. Okay? We're going to look at it once.
Kerwin by scrum half. Saint-Andre. Now they have to chance their arm here. The tour record hanging in the balance. Philippe Saint-Andre. Can he make a pass? Cooksley all over him. There it is again. Gonzalez. Delo. Benazi. Interback. Laurent Caban. Delo. What a superb movement. What a try. One of the all-time great tries.
It's nice, huh? So France will go ahead by a couple of points. They will kick the conversion. There's going to be 2 minutes left of the game, and then the game is finished, and they win, and it's a beautiful win. We're going to look at the replay in a second. But it's just a sensational try. There's some risk-taking. That particular pass there is really tough. He dummies. In pass, he puts it exactly at the right tempo. There's constant support. It's all beautiful in there. Okay? Now, before I play the next one, you look at the replay. Beautiful. Okay. Now, before I play this one, is there one element of this try that for you strikes you as the perfect illustration of genuine trust in motion, full trust in motion? Go on, raise your hand because I can't really see you. Yes, please. Yeah, absolutely. So Philippe Saint-Andre, the one who cashes, the first receives the ball, takes the initiative to counterattack, right? Yeah? But what for you particularly, Epema, is so genuine trust is that the fact that he's got trust in, he feels the trust of his teammates enough to take the initiative, is that what you mean?
Yeah. Well, he knows, and his teammates trust him that he's going to go, and they're not shouting at him to kick the ball out or kick it down the field. So nobody's giving you any other instructions.
Okay, we'll come back to that. It's a really good point, thank you, and we'll come back to that. Anything else? Yes.
I think the last pass just before is putting the try. He could try to make the try himself, but he's still at the last 20 centimeters. He allows his teammates to make the try, and actually he could throw and the guy could miss the catch.
This is so funny. This comment comes back every time, and I totally agree with you, but I think I've twisted your mindset because I tell you the outcome before. The last pass is not necessary. He technically sort of crosses the line, even though he's passed the ball. Imagine he drops the last ball. I kill him, huh? This is live or die situation. Are you going to have, look, oh, he needs a sell. I'll just give you the pen. You sign the contract. No, none of that. You sign the contract, then we'll celebrate all together. You score the try, then we'll dance in the end zone all together. I totally agree with you. Everybody says it every time, but I think it's because you're a romantic. You're passionate. You got something about you that is about giving to others. I love the image as much as you do. I love it, but it's because I already told you that everything went fine. And I think that's why you're sort of twisted in it. So it's not exactly the element that I'm after, but I do really agree with you that it's a sense of selflessness, which is a beautiful team sport-oriented thing. Yes?
Yeah, it's when the black one is playing the long ball.
Yeah.
And then the guy chooses to run into the crowd instead of passing.
The guy who receives the ball?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the same point that was made just a little before. It's the first initial initiative, right? Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, the first time, I mean, he could have passed the ball,
yeah,
but he run with the ball himself and exactly directly into the crowd.
correct.
Probably was not expected.
So look, that is correct. It's not exactly what I'm after, but you guys are almost there, but I'll tell you in a second, don't worry. I'll come back to it. Yes, please.
Well, basically, he doesn't look back. He just passes on the ball, and there's always someone behind. It feels like it's just flowing. He's going, and he knows there is someone behind him.
So this comes back all the time, and I love that. No, it's really good. I usually get told it feels like they pass the ball blind, you know, that there's always somebody. I totally agree. That's constant support. It's not about me. It's about somebody else, and everybody's reacting to initiative. I love that, but it's not exactly that. Yes, one more, then I'll tell you. Yeah? I love that. Look, I talked about the ticker and I talked about love, so you're right. I liked it. You picked up on it. All right, one last one. Yes, all the way at the back.
I think it's fast always in the moment.
Yeah,
Not to fight, not to go to the mall,
yeah,
but always having the opportunity to pass just in the moment, share the ball, change the direction. Always have in mind
yeah.
you have better things to do than to maintain the ball.
It's not about you, it's about getting the ball forward. Look, everything that was said I adore, okay? I love the heart. I love the support. I love everything that you said is totally true. Now, my idea out of this video is to try to find a way to measure trust. And when you look at this play, it's all about the first initiative, yes, but it's not so much about the person who takes the initiative. It's about the reaction to a colleague's initiative. And if you look at this play, everybody is in front of the guy who's going to receive the ball, but there's only one guy who's behind him. So you can forget about everybody else, just look on one guy and how quickly he reacts to his captain's initiative. I didn't say that, but the guy who catches the ball, Philippe Saint-André, is the captain of the French team. This decision that he takes is extremely risky. There's 5 minutes left, and he says, look, I'm just going to go all in here, and you guys all have to follow me. Have a look at the time it takes for his colleague to follow him in this hugely risky decision, and have a look at his first body language. His shoulders are going to be facing out of Jean-Luc Sadourny, who's behind Philippe Saint-André, because he still thinks that Saint-André is going to kick. As soon as Saint-André does that right step, and we're going to pause there in a second, have a look at how long it takes Jean-Luc Sadourny to actually go from, oh shit, he's not kicking, he's going to run it, and how quickly he reacts, okay? So let's play it one more time. And then we're going to pause it exactly at the moment where he takes the step. So at the moment, Jean-Luc Sadourny, who's behind, you don't know. Yeah, he's probably going to kick it, probably going to kick it, probably going to kick it. Bang! Shoulders are already turned. We're talking a tenth of a second for his captain to decide, oh, by the way, for the biggest game in our lives, I'm just going to take it all now. And do it 82 meters away from the try line. I mean, you don't need to know anything about rugby, but this is very risky. He's taking all the risk on his own, and he's the captain. He's saying, well, we're going to do it now. Do you think the guy behind said, yeah, it's a good decision. All right, fair enough, I'm going to go? That's genuine, full trust in motion. I know it's not replicable in what you guys are doing. I'm not trying to say this is what you need to go for. But whenever you take a decision, or you lead or you propose something, and you see somebody leaving your meeting room going, dragging their feet a little bit, and in the end they commit to it, that's not good enough. It's simply not good enough, because when the shit hits the fan, when things are going to get really, really tough, maybe not milliseconds, but hours will definitely be a game changer in terms of how fast you can react. And that's when you're going to want people to say, boom, I'm going to follow his initiative. That's genuine trust in motion. That's what you have to thrive for. Because if he had thought about it just one more second, they would have never scored and we would not be here clapping them. So we're going to look at the rest of the play. You can just press play and look at the rest of it. He's going to be in support in 1 second. Zoom. The number 1, number 3, that's the accountants, that's the backroom staff. You never see them do anything. They never get any other spotlight. But if they don't throw themselves in that ruck there, nothing ever happens. Then there's the risk take in that beautiful pass. There's the constant support. There's the skill. There's the accuracy. There's not about me. And then there's the poet who rocks up and is like, no, look, let's make magic, and make it even better. But who scores in the end? Jean-Luc Sadourny, who reacts to his captain's initiative just for the symbolic at the end. Okay? So my point is to say that genuine trust can be measured. and it's measured by the time of reaction to a colleague's initiative. Okay? And my second point that I really wanted to emphasize on is that number 1 and number 3, if they don't fly themselves into the ruck, they don't even touch the ball. They just basically headbutt somebody in the ruck. But if they don't do that, they will have lost the ball and we will not all be here speaking about it. My points and my key takeaways. Vulnerability is a strength, absolutely. And it's the center of psychological safety. The 3 stages of resilience: understanding, setting the boundaries, and strategic resilience. Values need to be in motion. They need to be incarnated. Words on a billboard are not good enough. They need to be rituals and action-orientated. Diversity is a power. Bring what makes you different for the common of everyone, and full genuine trust can be measured by the time of reaction to a colleague's initiative. This is me. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll shoot some questions.
Yesterday we had a fun exercise at the end for those who were in my working group. Remember, I asked you what is your favorite sports club, and now act like you cheer for your favorite sports club making the winning goal. So I think we can try that again. So let's stand up and let's cheer for the winning goal for Benjamin, and do it as loud as you can, please. Let's go! Thank you, Benjamin. That was really a great presentation. And this was, as you may have noticed, yesterday we talked about the why. Why are we here as a company? What kind of mission do we serve? Today we're going to shift to the how, completely in the Olympic theme, and with Benjamin sharing us some recipe for success for what a winning team looks like. We have to go in a few minutes for the sports activities, and we go in the buses in a moment. But I want to allow for a few questions, and Benjamin is going to join us for a little bit to the sports activities. We'll go around the team, so there is a little bit more time
to chat.
Yes.
Relax, guys.
Not to do the scrum. Probably,
I didn't bring my boots.
So are there any? Let's take three, 4 burning questions. So state your question briefly and come up with a good question, as Benjamin asked. So who wants to go first? Renaud, let's go for it.
So first of all, thanks a lot. It was very inspiring. And when I see the leadership you are demonstrating, I'm wondering why you never went to training, to be the trainer of a team.
Coach.
Why you? Yeah, coach. Yes.
That's why it's very kind of you, but it's so boring. So I got offered to be a forwards coach of Clermont when I stopped. I joke when I say it's so boring. I don't like the path that it needs to take you. I don't like the analytical side of rugby. I like the human performance side, and that's when you're the big boss, you can allow to feed that culture. Secondly, my rugby career has taken a toll on my family. We never, look, no need to cry, but we never booked a holiday more than 3 days before anything, because there was always, am I going to go on tour? Am I picked? Am I not picked? Are we in the final? Are we in the semi-final? Where are we going to go next year? There's certain times where you need to move your whole family for a different club, and I think it was about enough. And my wife and girls really did a lot of everything for me, and so it was time to put them in the center of everything. And a coach is even worse than that, because you play every single game, because you never injured, you never rotated. And when you finish, when I see the faces of the coaches on the Saturday, we're all having a beer in the change room, and they're all happy, and then 10 minutes later, next week, again. I'm like, no, thank you. So at the moment, no, but I try to be a coach in all the portfolio companies, and I want to bring this to a little bit of a higher purpose, a bit about what you guys are doing, and doing it for positive innovation. But thank you for the compliment.
Okay, thank you. Another question? Yes, in the back, Martin.
Thank you very much. Great speech. I lived in Twickenham for 25 years, so across the road from Nationals, in the shadow of the stadium and across the road from the Sloops. I've seen you play a few times. You also played for the Barbarians, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very different team, very different culture. They come together for 4 or 5 days. How does that work? Because you come in from all over the world. How do you make that team spirit in such a short space of time, and how does it work?
A tremendous amount of alcohol. So for people who don't do it, who don't know the Barbarians, honestly, the Barbarians is sensational. It's a fantastic tradition in rugby, a bit like the Harlem Globetrotters for basketball. It's the idea that rugby has to be a free-spirited, free-flowing, just a bunch of guys who get together and we're going to give out everything. You know, the brotherhood of rugby to this epiphany. And this tradition has kept going, even with professional and international rugby, where the guys the guys don't get paid to play for the Barbarians. Okay, number one. But every year they're allowed to do international fixtures, and they just bring the best players in the world who are invited. It's an invitation-only club to play for the Barbarians, and they make sure that it's all different nationalities, all different places, and we barely train, to be honest, because the most we do is socializing. But you end up playing against England, against Australia at Twickenham. I played once for the English Barbarians. We had an outstanding team. I mean, I was starstruck, most of the time. It was incredible. The one thing that you can do is to say that human bond will overcome any talent. And I'm very biased because I'm good at human bond and I'm not very talented, so that's why I probably preach for the choir. But that's how we do it for the Barbarians. You open up, you are genuine, you brush off your rugby CV and you talk up to the person. You dig deeper to what has made them, because there's always fascinating stories to learn from and to feed off. And then in the end, when you decide to unite all that into representing proudly an invitation-only club, building your own legacy, well, it shows on the pitch. And that day, we put 62 points on England. We beat England 62-18 after being 4 days almost constantly intoxicated with alcohol and speaking to each other. So it's actually, it's hard for me to explain because it defines everything that we get told every week about discipline and about how much you need to be sturdy. So you can't, it's not sustainable. Right? You can do it 1 week and then you go. But it was an incredibly heartwarming experience of those guys coming from everywhere and just bonding over. I mean, it's all about doing silly things that got nothing to do with rugby. It's about dressing up. It's about going out. It's about the first thing they would do with the Barbarians when you get in is you need to present yourself, and the question is, how does your mother call you? You say, it's more for the naughty boys, so when you get told off, how does your mother call you? So it was more that. But it's straight away to break the idea of who you are as a person, and that's what you need to bring to the table.
Yeah, when you were the senior in the team, what was your best advice to the new kids on the block when they entered their hotel rooms?
So in 2017, when we win the top 14, without getting too technical, we beat Toulon, and the game was really, really tough. But after the first 10, 15 minutes, there's an extremely long defensive set where we are acculés, I don't know how you say that. We're just like pushed back almost on our line. We're really holding on by a thread not to concede a try. And it's long and it's exhausting. And I tackled like 6 times and my eyes split open. And we end up ripping the ball and catching it. And the youngest guy of the team, Damien Penaud, who's currently the ISM winger, the French team winger, grabs the ball, and he's 18. He's completely careless because he doesn't have the weight of all those defeats. He just arrived in the team. And I'm screaming at him, kick it out, kick it out. I'm screaming everything that I can off the floor, bleeding. I just want to have a rest, And he doesn't know what he's doing, and he steps one, and then he steps another one, and in the end he starts running, and we score a 70-meter try, okay? We end up winning that game by 1 point. The conclusion is, if he listens to me, we are never French champion. And so what I told them is, look, there are ground rules that need to be respected. There are non-negotiables, okay, that we need to agree upon. And as long as you fit in that, absolutely be yourself. Bring what makes you different. I don't want an 18-year-old to have all the weight of leadership of a 35-year-old who's got all this history behind him. Bring your selflessness. Bring your creativity. Bring your difference. We all feed off of those things. So we're very open-minded to just extracting the best. We get rid of all the shit, keep the PlayStation, but bring your freedom of speech and of thought and of creativity. And it just makes something absolutely special. And another side note, because something I wanted to touch upon, but I didn't mention it there. In rugby, we're very good at celebrating the dark arts. And Damien Penaud was the one, for instance, on every Monday, he was a scoring machine. He would score tries left, right, and center. And we would always play on the Monday review, all the tries, and everybody would clap, we would be super happy. And at the end, Franck Azema, the coach who was there when I showed you, would always rewind. There was always going to be some element that required zero talent, that was made by a teammate, that if he hadn't done it, would have obviously cancelled the whole play. So he should be thankful for. And Damien Penaud, pretty much every Monday, because every Monday he scored a try, would have to come in. We would rewind it, press pause on exactly that little moment where you don't touch the ball, but you just throw yourself on it, you tackle somebody, you rip it out, you make the extra selfless effort for the team, and he would have to come and give us a little kiss on the cheek.
I think that's a great way to finish for now, Benjamin. Thank you for a great speech.